Hello, everybody. I'm going to put my sparkles on. I love my sparkles. Hi, everyone. It's me, Madam Pamita, and I want to welcome you to our little Instagram live interview series we're calling Meet My Familiar. We'll be posting these, of course, on YouTube and TikTok. YouTube for there to be an archive so that we can always look back. Today, we're going to be interviewing, I'm super excited. We're going to be interviewing Scorpio from WitchSpace podcast. I don't know if you want me to use your name, but I'll just say Scorpio from the WitchSpace podcast. And excited to talk to her about her familiars. I've got a new book coming out. The reason we're doing this is because I've got a new book coming out through Hay House called The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars. It's going to be coming out January 28th. And so this is a book about working with animals in your magic. It is such a good book. If you love animals and you're a witch and you love magic, it's a sort of given that you're going to be making magic with your animals and for your animals. And that's what this book is about. And it's going to be coming out on January 28th of 2025. So not too far away, just a little bit over a month. I have a special class coming up I want to announce too called Introduction to Animal Familiar Magic. It is going to be in January, on January 13th. It is one of my full moon workshops. It's a $40 workshop, but if you would like to get this workshop for free, we'll be talking about how to invite a familiar in, what a familiar does for you, how to work with your familiars, and so on. If you want to get this class, this $40 class for free, all you have to do is go to animalfamiliars.com, pre-order a copy of The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, and let us know that you pre-ordered it. And then once you do, you sign up for this, you'll get a coupon for the class for free. And then you'll be joining me on January 13th for a wonderful full moon workshop. All right, so let's bring Scorpio in here. I see they're here. She's here. All right. Account. So here we go. And I'll read her bio when she comes in. Anyway, so there she is. Hello.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, I can't hear you.
Oh,
Hold on. It could be my thing. Say something.
something?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes.
Oh, but I can't. Okay. I guess no headphones today. Who knows? Technology. Okay.
Okay.
It'll work. So can I use your name?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this is Nori, and she is amazing podcaster. I love the Witch Space podcast, by the way. I'm super big fan of it. And I stumbled on you guys because you had done a episode about Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft. And I just stumbled on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, not only was great, of course, that you did this whole episode about my book, but it's just all the episodes are great. And you guys are so funny, such my gals. I feel like you're my
Thank you.
gals. You're my friends. Isn't that fun?
Absolutely.
Like, when you find people that you're like, oh my gosh, I could totally be friends with these people, I could totally make magic with them. So anyway, so I don't know that you ever sent me a bio. So I just snapped your bio from your Instagram account, your personal Instagram account. And it says that Nori is a New Yorker, a teacher, a witch, into 40s and 50s style, which I love. I love vintage. Lover of classic horror. That's the part where classic horror, yeah. Like old stuff from the 70s and before. Nowadays, I'm not into it.
Me neither.
70s and 80s punk, absolutely 100% with you on that. And is the podcaster for WitchSpace, which you can find WitchSpace at WitchSpace Co. on Instagram or witchspaceco.com or WitchSpace. What is your URL?
Just Instagram. It's just Instagram. We don't have, and we're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, anywhere you want to find a podcast.
You just look up WitchSpace and it'll pop up for you.
Yeah.
And you guys, it is such it's like hanging out with these gals, listening to you talk. It's just the best. It's like the best podcast to listen to, like going on a walk. You feel like you're listening to your friends.
Thank you.
No, so
Thank you
I love it so
much.
Yeah.
Because we love you. Update, you're going to be on because we already recorded. So January is all about you. It's all about this book. It's all about talking to you. So if people, I know they can't get enough of you. So absolutely, like you want to hear everything that Madame Pamita had to say to us, because it was a blast. It was
Oh
so
my
much
gosh.
fun.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys got a sneak peek at the book and got to that sneak preview of the book, and you'll get the physical book. I'll get those to you for sure. But you talk about the book. You have a podcast episode where you just talk about the book, which is great. Like I
Yeah.
just felt like when we had our conversation, I said it, I think I said it in the interview. It's like,
Mhm.
it's talking with experienced witches. So all day, every day, I'm talking to people who are new to witchcraft, which is awesome. I love teaching and sharing my knowledge. But there's something very special when you get to nerd out with the people who also have been doing it for a long time. And you get to
Yeah.
talk about kind of more in depth. You're not just giving advice, but we actually get to talk about like some high level magic stuff, which was very cool. It was so
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
It was great.
So anyway, so when we were talking, we talked a little bit about your familiars. So do you want to tell everyone about your familiars that you've had over the years and your special animals that have been in your life?
Well, I've only had one familiar. But after our conversation, I'm going to keep my eye out for my little pet now to see what happens. His name was Chango. So I am a spiritista with a background in Santeria as well and indigenous practice from my Caribbean side. And Chango is a orisha in the Yoruba tradition. And he was so tiny. And I just thought, if I'm going to give him a name, it should just be Chango. And it was just, and I gave him the full Yoruba name. It was Kabiosile Chango. And when I was mad, that's what I used to call, the full name. And he knew it. Like he would just like jump. Because I said, Kabiosile Chango. And he'd be like, oh, like he knew, like, okay, I'm in trouble. Like he'd come waddling over or whatever. And I said to Gemini at one point, I'm like, people would say to me, how could you name him after an Orisha? Isn't that disrespectful? And I said, no, I don't think people are thinking that I named him to be him or to embody him. And I said, no, I said, he was sent to me by him. And that's a very, very different thing. I said, so I'm acknowledging that this is where he comes from. Um, and he was a mini dachshund. I don't know if I said that already. And he lived with me for 16 and a half years. He was a very ill little dog. You would never know it. Only I and the vet knew, like he had like problems with his heart his whole life. Like I never thought he would make it to 16 and a half. So to me, that was a blessing. And when he did eventually pass away, it had nothing to do with his heart. So I was like, really? Like the thing that I was waiting for, and that wasn't the thing that did him in. But yeah, so that's him.
Oh my gosh. Now, first of all, a dachshund is pretty much one of the cutest dogs. It definitely is in
They
the
are.
top 10 of cutest dogs. They're so adorable and sweet. You don't see them that much anymore. It's interesting that they had like a trend like in the 50s. It's like he's such a 50s dog, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
A poodle and a dachshund. Those are like the 50s
Yep,
dogs, a vintage dog,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
A poodle with a clip, has to have the clip with the puffs, your
Yeah,
dachshund walking down the street in your high heels. Um,
absolutely.
I think there are such adorable dogs, and they have such personality, and I think they're just little comedians, right? Doing funny things all the time. So fun and full of life and cute.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what was the story of how the two of you met? I'd love to hear that story. How did you guys get together? Because that often is um, an interesting story to look at because they come into our lives in interesting ways. So I'm curious.
So he was just there. So let me explain. My husband really wanted a dog. And I'd never had a pet. I had lived with my grandmother. My grandma had lived with us, and she was highly allergic. So I was like, I want a little cat. My mom's like, we can't have a cat, you grandma. I want a little dog. Can't have a dog, you grandma. So, and then when I got older and I moved out, when you're young and you're moving around, I'm like, okay, no, like I'm not really home a lot. I'm not going to do this to an animal. So it wasn't until I got married that my husband, who was a big dog person, was like, let's get a dog. And in my head, I said, if it's a mini dachshund. He's like, what? Where did that come from? He goes, we've never had a dog. I'm like, it's got to be a mini dachshund. And I was out with my mom, and we were in this store, and they had um, dogs to just like adopt. And I didn't even know it was a dachshund. I just saw him, and I'm like, him, what is he? And the people came over, and they're like, oh, that's a little mini dachshund, but he's sleeping. We don't disturb him while he's sleeping. So I told my mom, I'm like, no, they don't disturb him. She's like, what? So she waited for the guy to go. And then she went over and went beep, beep, beep on his nose. And then she yells up, he's awake. Can we see him? So they put him in my arms and I was freaked out. I'm like, I don't want to do this. So my husband, I said, I called him anyway. He comes over and he goes, yeah, let's take him. What do we have to do? How do we get him? And I was like, wait, are we really doing this? And then he came home and I was horrified. I said, this is the biggest mistake that we have made. I don't
Puppies
want,
are a lot, right?
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And then he decided that he was going to be my buddy. I pretty much was like, this is going to be my husband's dog, but he wouldn't sleep through the night. He was in his little crate and he wouldn't sleep. And my husband said, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I said, I don't want him in the bedroom. Right. P.S. He was sleeping with me by the end. But he goes, I don't want him in the bedroom. So he's like, he'd bring up the crate and the dog would look at me. So he'd put him down next to his side of the bed and the dog would start yapping. I'm like, I can't take it. And he would lift him up. And again, the dog would just like calm down. He goes, it's you. He wants to be next to you. So he had to sleep on my side, like, and he would just stare at me and then fall asleep. And I'm like, this thing is like really weird. Like, why? Like, why is this happening? So that's how I got him.
He's so like that. That is so fascinating because it's like you were kind of ambivalent and kind of like, oh, maybe I don't know, maybe, and he's like, no, we're gonna work together.
It was him. He kind of, and it's funny because I think about when did I know he was a little bit different. And so my dad would take care of him because he was retired
Yeah,
and we'd have to go to work. And because I got him, I didn't get him in the summer. I got him right when school started and I'm a teacher. So I was like, that's great. So nobody's home to train him. So my dad took him. My dad died a year later. So when he died, because my dad always had him, like even when he didn't have to have him, he'd come over and pick him up. So I felt like I was taking care of my dad's dog. Funny enough, the night that he was taken to the hospital, he seemed to be fine. He had the dog. We picked him up. The dog came here. He was going crazy, went to the window and soiled. And I'm like, but he doesn't make mistakes anymore. He's not having accidents.
yeah.
And I went, well, okay, whatever. Um, my dad was taken to the hospital. I thought that was weird. My mom came to live with us. I'm going to say a couple of weeks after my dad died. My dad would always go out a specific door to take him out. And he started shaking and barking. And I'm like, he sees daddy. He sees daddy. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess because, kids and animals have another sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like those clues were really trying to tell me, like, he wants to be with me and he sees a lot more and he lets us know he's sane.
Yeah.
But still, I had no clue. Like, that was still not telling me, oh, do you want to work with me? I was still like, oh, okay, now it's just, my dog's a little weird, but whatever.
My my dog is into the paranormal, typical, but in the sense that you started to get, it's interesting and like what I think did it kind of open up your witchcraft practice when you started to think about like, oh, there's this companion that I have that has these special gifts that I don't necessarily haven't developed, and he has them. So was that sort of did that sort of evolve slowly and gently, or all of a sudden flash of inspiration, or what?
Um, I mean, after that happened with my dad, I said, okay, I didn't think about working with him, but I did think, oh, maybe I should pay attention to what he's looking at or what he's doing, right? Um, but and he would kind of like I would be in my space if I was doing ritual or whatever I was doing, and he didn't really come in the beginning, and then after a while, he was always in this space, and I was like, what? Why are you here? But I set up my altar a certain way. This was the first sign where I said, okay, dude, I think I know why
Yeah.
you're here. I set up my altar. And I was like, I think I like it. Like, I think I like what I've done here. Like, I totally redid it. And I was kind of excited. He walked in and I went, what do you think? Like, just as like not
Yeah.
because I was really asking him. He literally walked over, sat there and looked up, then spun around like dogs do,
Yeah.
sighed and went to sleep. He never slept there. And that's when I went, okay, stop everything. This is not just a little creepy dog. And he only wants to be with me, I was like, no, no, no. I'm going to learn from him. I don't know what I'm going to learn from him, but I'm supposed to pay attention to him for sure. Like that was the moment that I went, I have to pay attention to you because something is happening.
Yeah, it's really interesting as you were telling your story. I was thinking he's like a teacher to you. He's like, teaching you something. And then you said, I'm going to learn something from him. I said that was the moment of awakening. It's so amazing. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
afraid you were going to say he tore it apart or he peed on the altars and disapproved. No, he approved. That's good.
But I think that I would have felt the same way. I think that if he had peed on it, I would have gone, well, I think he is important and he's telling me I'm doing it all wrong. And I've angered some God and I have to just make amends somehow.
Well, I'm glad he approved and you had a lot less to deal with by that. But I think that's so, oh gosh, that's a lot of what my cat does. She sits and observes and kind of looks it over. And then she goes like, okay, I feel like she's probably a tough teacher. I don't know if he was a tough teacher, but she's a tough teacher. She's like, yeah, I guess it'll do. You're good enough. Yeah.
Okay. He was tough when it came to divination.
Oh, really? Tell me.
So, so I like to do things on the floor. I have like a whole spread that I do. I put things on a blanket that I have. And I'm there with my cards. And I can't tell you how many times I'd sit there and go, all right, so what does this mean? And he'd waddle over and he'd just start like hitting the cards. And I'm like, what? Why are you doing this? And then he would just sit and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm asking it the wrong way. Like it's funny because we would have this relationship where I would just go, what do you want? And he would go, "Rah, rah, rah," like, just like he's pissed, and he like swatted my cards. And at first I'm like, okay, you have to get out. And then he wouldn't leave. And I'd go, okay, so you're not supposed to leave. Okay, so what am I supposed to learn from this? Do I do another reading? And it's hard because they don't talk to you. And it
Yeah.
takes a while for you to figure out exactly what they
Yeah.
mean. And usually I kind of figured out after a while when he would hit it kind of meant no, pay attention to this card. But of course, I'm not human. So if I move the card, like it's not that I'm discarding it. At first, I thought, oh, discard the cards. And then it was like, oh no, pay attention to this. And then I'm like, okay, let me pull more cards in relation to this card. And then I realized, okay, I get it now. So that took me a while to figure out.
Ah, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, when you were saying that, I'm like, he's touching certain cards. He's probably saying, but it is in the moment you're like, "Ugh, you're being so annoying. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. That is like amazing. And in my book, I actually talk about horses and horses and other domestic animals. And certainly if you can do it with domestic animals, you can do it with pets as well, which is to work with them with the deck, how to work with them with the deck and have them do readings with you where they pick cards or they do this. So this can be something that's so absolutely like a co-creative experience, a cooperative experience that you're getting into with working with your animals and what that reveals to you. If they pick the cards or they're saying, pay attention to this card. I love it. He's like so attuned not only to spirits, but to like cards that you need to pay attention to. Do you ever get the feeling that he was a human in a past life, or do you think he's just a dog or was a human in a past life?
I felt like he was a little person.
Yeah.
Like I definitely would call him a little person. So yeah, I think that's totally possible because he was. I mean, I've seen my friends' dogs. It's not like I never was around a dog because I didn't
Yeah.
have one. And, even people would tell me, like, the way he looks at you, like, sometimes when you're with a good
Yeah.
friend and somebody will say something and you can't go, oh my
Yeah.
God, really? But you look at each other
Yeah.
like sometimes I would look at him and he would just like look at me. I'm like, oh God, okay. And I'm like, okay, dogs don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we would give each other like eyes and Gemini has caught that where she's seen us do that. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. It's like we're looking at somebody and we're going, that person's not okay, So
That's like, when with my cat, I had two cats and I only have one, but I had two cats and I had a pet psychic go, well, your other cat is just a cat, but this one here, Glinda, was a human in a past life. She was definitely a human. And he told me all about her whole story. She was a mambo in New Orleans and, I'm
yeah.
like, so now my friend Chris Honoreo calls her Mambo Glinda because
I
she,
love
her
that.
name's Glinda, but she's Mambo Glinda because she former Mambo. But it makes sense because she like kind of looks at my stuff and she's like got her opinions, but she doesn't. She just sort of looks things over, you know, and she doesn't. She hasn't yet gotten into the cards, so maybe she wasn't that kind of Mambo. I don't know. But anyway, so she she's really funny. But I get that, you know, like and she does the same thing that your dog does, which is she'll talk to me and it sounds like she's trying to make human words, which is very uncat-like. And
Mm,
not even like and dachshunds, I don't think they are like, you know, when we hear that, we usually hear that with huskies and these dogs. Those dogs will make those sounds and they sound like talking, right?
yeah.
Charlie Brown teacher talking.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's usual for a dachshund to start to like. It sounds like they're trying to do human speech,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so
Absolutely.
interesting. So interesting. Um, did you ever invite him into your practice? Like, did you ever say like, "Oh, come and hang out with me while I do this," or was it always just him coming over and doing something?
I would say to him, like, I'm going in now, like, I'm going to cast a circle and I'm going to do this, you know, you coming. And he wouldn't. And he would come late. And I always would say to him, like, are you on Latino people time? Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to show up late. Why do you show up late? And he would make his presence known. Like, he would come to the door and just stand there. And I'd go, stop being a freak. Like, are you coming in? Like, what is this? Why are you late? You know? And he would come in when he felt like
Yeah.
it. But he was always here. He would always come in, but it was kind of weird because he would follow me in. But if I was going to do something, it's almost like he said, "No, I have to come late." For whatever reason, I never really figured that out.
Huh.
But he would come late, and I'm like, "All right, he'll show up when he's ready." And I'm not redoing this, you know. Like, you come into the circle when you come into the circle, and this is the way it is, and that's fine. Um, I also had, because I got divorced before I got remarried, so it was him and I for a while. And you know, I was when you live alone, sometimes you like I hear things, there's something going on in the house, and I'm like, listen, I said to him, you have to make sure you're like looking around because I got to get a good night's sleep. And he would patrol the entire house
Oh my God.
if I said that to him. So when I got remarried, my husband's like, what is this dog doing? Why is he walking so much? I'm like, listen, he has a job. Just leave him alone. I said, he goes and he does this, and then he'll be back, you know? And then he lets me know because he will wake me up, and then I pick him up and he gets back into the bed with
Oh,
me. It's like he had his job. So, yeah.
you didn't have little stairs for him to climb up on the bed? You had to pick him
Yes.
up?
No, I did, but sometimes he would just,
He just
whine.
wants the elevator.
He
He wants
likes the
the
elevator. I don't blame him.
He's very extra. He comes on his own time. He wants you to get the circle ready so that he can come in. You know, I think this is like, you know, whoever he was in his past life, he was a bigwig. And he
Yeah.
just knows, I'm not going to, I show up and I show up. I'm not going to.
And again, if I think about who sent him, um, it's almost like he doesn't have to play by my rules.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And I
Yeah.
always got that sense that he was always telling me, like, lady, relax. Like, I do things. Like, you just have to wait for me to do whatever I do. And, when I think about his name and if that is who sent him, mm, I absolutely have I have no dominion over that. Like, there's no way that I can tell this dog what to do when it comes to that stuff. So I always felt that. And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like that it felt like a partnership, even if sometimes it's like you're so annoying, because I'm sure he felt the same way about me, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so and he was a protector. I definitely felt that he was a protector in more ways than just, yes, he had big teeth, dachshunds can rip you apart, but I felt like there was something there. And when he had his baby teeth, I actually was lucky enough to catch some of his baby teeth. They would fall out. I actually had one made into a
Oh
necklace.
my.
So it's got like a little pendant of him. And in your book that I loved so much, you mentioned the altars to them. And Gemini said to me, do you have an altar to Chango? And I said, honestly, I didn't think I did. But if you come to my house and you look, it's definitely an altar because you have his ashes, his footprint, his photo, and I have candles next to them. I said, I didn't do it intentionally. And I think that's what's so wonderful about your book. I know we're talking about me, but I just want to be able to say this, that you know, sometimes you go like, what do I do? What am I going to learn in this book? And I learned a lot, but it was so nice to be validated with things, to go, "Oh, I did this. And it just came naturally." And when you don't have these conversations with other witches, sometimes you don't know, like, what should you do with a familiar's ashes? Or is it possible to reach them after they've passed on? And that's also in your book. And that got me so excited to be able to work with him now. So, honestly, the book is tremendous. Like, it's fantastic. And it didn't make me cry because, how does it not? Right? You're talking about a being that is so dear to you. And to be able to read this from somebody who's so knowledgeable about the subject and can give you insight, even into things like I said, the altar that I didn't even think I needed insight, or that I had an altar, and you go, oh, wow. So, thank you,
Yeah.
for that. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you for those beautiful, kind words of praise. That's so lovely. I mean, I do think this book is so, there are books out there about familiars, but a lot of them talk about working with spirits, which this is about working with animals or animal spirits, or, there's a little bit talking about like over souls of animals and things like that. But it's primarily about working with animals in the real 3D. And
mhm.
um, that I don't see a lot of. I have no, I don't think there's a lot of books talking about how to make magic with your animals. They're mostly how to do magic for your animals, or how to, there are some books, like there's books on cats, and then you have that, and you have a book on dogs, and there's those sorts of books. But to holistically look at like working with animals and working with the animal kingdom and bringing that into your magic, and working with their spirits, and spells that you can do for them, but spells that you can do with them. And so it's I think the value of the book is it starts getting you thinking about it. Even if you go, oh gosh, well, I could do this spell that's for this kind of animal, but I could do that with my animal. So I think this is one of the great the hopes that I have, is that people look at this book and start actually opening up their mind to this, because they're probably, like you said, you're probably already doing it if you're a witch, but you just don't have a framework for understanding, just like you didn't realize you had an altar. Oh yeah, you do have an altar up, don't you?
Right. And then once you know that, then the book can help you take it
Yeah.
further. Right. So
Yeah.
a lot of it. So it's about learning about things, also about recognizing things. Yeah, you're right.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you were to make, if someone were to come to you and say, I want to start working with a familiar, or I don't have a familiar and I want one, or, I have an animal and how do I know if it's a familiar? Is there any tips or tricks, or from your experience, that you could share with people on how to activate that relationship or enhance that relationship?
So what I would say to people, one, pick up your book. And then I would say, I'd say, watch them with an open mind and with a little bit of awe, right? Because even if they wind up not being a familiar, there's something very special that we can learn from any animal. Doesn't matter. And then, like you said, to build a relationship. How did you build a relationship with your best friend? You had tons of conversations. You did silly things like movie nights. He liked to sit with me, so we would sit and watch movies, and I would just talk to him about the movie. And I would go, "This is so ridiculous. Wouldn't you run if this happened?" And it's not anything witchy, but it's building a relationship. Like, have a conversation and look at his eyes. Like, is he staring at you? And say, "What's going on, bud? What are we looking at?" When you see him do this and you go, "Oh, what did I say something wrong?" Just have the time to have these conversations without feeling the pressure of, okay, you're familiar now.
Yeah.
It's it's not like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have called him my familiar until 2 years after I had him, when he was 2 years old, maybe
Yeah.
three, right? I think three for sure. I was already going, okay, we're already doing things together. But it's not about that. So I would say take it slow and really get to know this being, and be willing to learn from them. It's not about you teaching them tricks. It's about how are we going to work together, and realizing when you do start working together, they don't want to be there for something, there's a reason for that. They're like, that's your problem, lady, and you have to just deal with it. And if they show up late all the time, it's okay. Like, I always tell people, the deities I work with, they have a sense of humor because that's how I approach
Yeah.
everything. So he would come in and I'm like, well, that's great. Now I'm in trouble with the boss. You came here late. Like, I would say different things to him, um, and I was just happy to have him in whatever form he wanted to come into something. I was just happy to have him. And, yeah, that's what I would say to people. I would say take it slow, like any relationship. You don't become best friends overnight. You don't become, a romantic relationship overnight. So what makes you think you're going to have a familiar overnight? Just, have a friend and see and learn from your friend and listen to your friend.
Yeah, and they'll show you if that's what they want to do. I always say it's like a little bit like our relationships with humans. I'm sure most of us have witchy friends and non-witchy friends, and it's not like we look at the non-witchy friends as less than. We make magic with our witchy friends, but our non-witchy friends also add to our life. So just because an animal doesn't want to do magic with you doesn't mean they're not valuable, lovable, a great ally and an asset. But you have this very, very special thing when your animal does want to do in any aspect want to get involved in your magic, and this is what we're talking about. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Look and observe. Are they interested in your magic? Are they disinterested? What do they bring to the table? And honor whatever they bring to the table, even if it's companionship, or someone to watch a movie with, which I can now not get out of my mind, is you sitting and watching, I don't know, Wicker Man with him and going, really? What are they doing that? Love that outfit, by the way, or whatever.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Um, do you have anything coming up, any podcast episodes or anything that you want, or anything else that you're doing that you want to share with with my audience, with everybody who's watching and rewatching this on YouTube?
Well, I hope that you guys will tune in to WitchSpace. We're going into our 7th year. So, and we open it up with you. You're the first person that we have on for year 7. It is crazy. So, we come out every new moon and every full moon. And the next new moon, we have the last book of the year. We just brought out our yearly wrap up. And I don't know, like, I hope that you guys check us out. Basically, we're two academic witches living in the lower Hudson Valley. And we like to talk about the history of witchcraft as well, which is why we do the books, right? And we call it a witch in time because sometimes we go back in time and you have to, go through all that with the messes. And sometimes they're books that are brand new. And what do they mean for us and our history and who we are as a community? So that's why we do the new books. And then the full moon is when we do our interviews and we just talk about different topics. So, we hope that you'll want to come along for the ride.
It's such a good podcast, you guys. It's one of my, definitely in my top 5 podcasts that I listen
Thank
to.
you.
It's so, so good. It deserves to have the biggest audience because it's just a good, I think it's, what I love about it is like it's not fluffy in the sense of like you're getting real information, real knowledgeable people. So this isn't somebody who took, read one book and is now an expert. These are witches who have practiced for a long, long time and have great solid information, and I just love it. I mean, it's just so wonderful to hear. By the way, I forgot when we were talking, I said, oh, I might visit you in spring. I'm going to be teaching at Temple Fest. So in the fall, late summer. So that's when I'll be out in the East Coast, and I hope to get together with you. So I'm going to
Absolutely.
do a little tour. So I'll reach out to you to find out like the bookstores I should go to. We were talking about that. And yeah, as I start to prepare around that, I like to do a little like touring around while there's everything's so close compared to the West Coast. It's like you can get in like 3 states in a day.
Yeah.
But we can plan a little tour, and my
Yeah.
boyfriend and I will come around and we'll do that. We have fun. Temple Fest is great, by the way. That's run by Christopher Penzak. It's
Oh,
his
wow.
witch
Oh,
camp.
okay.
It's witch camp,
Oh, okay.
basically. I've gone
Hmm.
before. This is the first time I'm teaching there, so I'll see you then. So anyway,
Nice.
thank you so much, Nori, for joining me, and thank you to all of you for watching. Go listen, do yourself a favor and go listen to WitchSpace. Find it, add it, subscribe, leave a review for them too, because that is always so helpful for podcasts, super helpful for podcasts. I have to do that. I will do that soon. I want to let everyone know that our next Meet My Familiar will be with Naylin Wyvern and Aiden Gribnoy, and these are my Brazilian witches. We'll be doing a live here on Instagram on Thursday, December 26th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 Mountain, 7 Central, 8 Eastern on Instagram. I want to wish everybody happy Yule, happy winter solstice. This is a beautiful, magical, deeply, deeply, deeply important time of year. Now we can welcome back the beautiful sun. I hope you do spend some time looking at the sun today, if the sun's still out for you. If you want to make magic with your special animals, check out the Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars. It's coming out January 28th. 2025, and then go to animalfamiliars.com so you can sign up and get a spot for free in my full moon workshop. It's called the Introduction to Animal Familiar Magic. I'm like blanking out for a second. It's going to be talking about how you can connect with your familiars, how to recognize familiars. We're going to be learning all of these things as a live Zoom workshop. Even if you can't make the live, it's recorded, so you should sign up for that. If you want it, you can pay for it, $40, but you can get it for free if you pre-order the Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars. So go to animalfamiliars.com. You can find out where to pre-order, how to pre-order, and how to get that free class, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks again, Nori. Thanks again, everybody who's
Thank
watching.
you.
All right,
Happy
everybody.
Yule.
Happy Yule. Bye.
Bye.